This happened in early 2022 when I stayed at an Airbnb while visiting a friend in Vermont. I booked a 3-night stay in a small basement apartment that was part of a family home. It was clean, private, had decent reviews, and looked cozy in the pictures. The host, a guy named Lance, messaged me the day I booked. He told me he and his wife lived upstairs, but I'd have the whole basement level to myself. Private entrance, full kitchenette, even a small TV. Pretty standard setup for an Airbnb in a rural area. When I got there around 6 p.m., it was already getting dark. The neighborhood was quiet. Just a few spaced out houses off a wooded road. The entrance to the basement was around the side of the house, down a short set of concrete steps. The key was in a lockbox by the door. The inside looked exactly like the photos. One bedroom, a small living space, a kitchenette, and a bathroom. There was a weirdly low ceiling, but otherwise, it was clean and warm. A little humid, maybe, but nothing too uncomfortable. I dropped my bag, texted my friend that I made it, and ordered some takeout. First night was uneventful. I ate, watched something on Netflix, and went to bed around midnight. That night, around 3 a.m., I woke up to a strange sound. It was soft, distant, like someone pacing slowly above me. I figured it was the host or his wife walking around. The footsteps weren't heavy, but something about them didn't feel normal. They weren't moving from room to room. It was like someone walking a short loop. Step, step, turn, step, step. I laid there and just listened for a while. Eventually, the sound faded out. I fell back asleep and forgot about it. The next day, I went out to meet my friend and spent most of the afternoon at their place. I mentioned the pacing I'd heard, mostly as a joke. That's when my friend gave me a weird look and said, "Lance lives alone." I told him the listing said he and his wife lived upstairs, but when I double-checked the message later, I realized he never actually said wife. I had just assumed that when he wrote, "We live upstairs," every message from him used I, and the listing only had a profile photo of one guy. That gave me a weird feeling, but I shrugged it off. Maybe he just used we to sound more professional. I got back to the Airbnb around 8 p.m. It was already dark, and the place felt quieter than before. I don't know how else to describe it. Like the air felt heavier when I walked in. I double-checked the locks, made a quick dinner, and settled in with the show. That night, I went to bed earlier, around 11. I woke up again just before 3 a.m., but this time, the sound wasn't above me. It was in the hallway, the basement hallway, just outside the bedroom door. Footsteps, bare feet, slow, deliberate, walking from the kitchenette to the bathroom and then stopping. I didn't move. I was lying on my side, facing the wall, frozen. After maybe a minute, I slowly sat up and looked at the door. It was cracked open slightly. I could see the glow of the microwave clock from the kitchen casting a faint green light on the hallway carpet. Then the door creaked. Just a little, like someone had barely nudged it. I stayed completely still. My phone was charging across the room. I didn't want to call out or make any noise. I just sat there, trying to hear anything else. Nothing. Eventually, I got up and grabbed my phone. I turned on the flashlight, stepped into the hallway, and checked every corner of the small apartment. Nothing was out of place. The front door was still locked. Bathroom empty. Kitchen dark. Then I noticed something strange. In the bathroom, on the tile floor, there were faint wet footprints. Bare feet. The prints led from the edge of the rug to the shower and then disappeared. I took a picture. The prints were smudged, like someone had walked in with damp feet, turned around, and vanished. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I texted Lance and told him someone might have come into the basement during the night. I asked if there was a chance another tenant had access, or if there was a shared entry I didn't know about. No reply. I waited another couple hours. Still nothing. I decided to get out of there. I packed my bag, checked the locks again, and left. I drove to a nearby diner, grabbed coffee, and tried to calm down. Around 9 a.m., I finally got a reply. No one should have access but you. Sorry to hear that. I can refund the last night if you'd prefer to leave early. That was it. No concern. No follow-up. Just a refund offer. I didn't go back. I stayed at my friend's place for the rest of the trip. That night, just out of curiosity, I looked up the house's address. I didn't find much, but I did find an old newspaper article from 5 years earlier about a domestic dispute at the same street number. The article was vague, but it mentioned a disturbance that involved a man and a woman. Charges weren't filed, and the case was closed. The names were blacked out, but the timeline matched up. A couple weeks after I got home, I checked the listing again. It was still up. Same name, same pictures, same staircase down to the basement entrance. But something had changed. The listing now said, private unit beneath owner's home. Owner lives alone. I never left a review. I didn't want to deal with any follow-up, but I still have the photo I took of those footprints. Sometimes I look at it late at night and think about how close someone was to me while I was sleeping, and how they walked out of the room without ever opening a door. This happened last year, when my girlfriend and I stayed at an Airbnb in Colorado while visiting her parents. We live a couple of states away, so instead of staying with them for the whole week, we decided to rent a place just outside their town for a bit of privacy. It was a small standalone cottage, kind of tucked away near the edge of a wooded area. The photos looked cozy. Wood floors, a stone fireplace, a little porch out front. Nothing about it seemed sketchy. The reviews were solid, and the host was responsive. When we pulled up, it was late afternoon and already getting cold. The air smelled like pine. You could barely see another house through the trees. The place looked just like the listing, maybe a little older in person, but still clean and comfortable. There was a narrow hallway that led to the bedroom and bathroom, and near the floor in that hallway was a vent, an old rectangular one, painted the same beige color as the wall. It looked like it hadn't been used in years. Probably part of an older heating system before they upgraded. We didn't think anything of it. The first day was uneventful. We unpacked, grabbed dinner with her parents in town, came back around 10, and watched a movie before crashing. The house didn't make any strange noises, and the heat worked fine. It felt like a good stay. That changed on the second night. We'd both gone to bed around midnight. Sometime in the middle of the night, I think around 3, I woke up without really knowing why. No bad dream, no sudden noise, just that feeling when your brain knows something's off. I laid there for a minute, eyes open in the dark, trying to get my bearings. That's when I heard it. A faint whisper. It was quiet, almost like the sound wasn't even in the room, like it was coming from inside the walls. I sat up slowly and listened harder. It was coming from the hallway. I couldn't make out the words, but it was rhythmic. Someone whispering something on repeat. My girlfriend shifted and mumbled something. Still asleep, I got up, moved to the door, and opened it just a crack. The hallway was pitch black, but the whispering was clearer now. It was low and fast, like someone trying to talk through clenched teeth. It was coming from the vent. At first, I thought maybe there was some weird airflow causing the sound, or that it was something outside, like wind traveling through the ducts. But as I stood there, staring at the vent, I realized it was too specific. It had the cadence of speech, pauses, repeated phrases. Sometimes it sounded like a sentence would start, then cut off. I stepped a little closer. The whispering stopped. I waited. Nothing. I shook it off and went back to bed. I didn't wake my girlfriend. I figured I'd just imagined it or dreamed it. The next day, I kept thinking about it, even though it felt ridiculous. I checked the hallway vent again, just a regular metal grate. I even unscrewed it to look inside. There was nothing but darkness and a layer of dust. The duct was maybe 8 inches deep before turning off to the side. There was no way someone could be in there. That night, we went out to eat again, then came back to the cottage and played cards for a while. Everything felt normal until around 2:30 a.m. This time, it was my girlfriend who shook me awake. She whispered, "Do you hear that?" I sat up and we both listened. It was the same whispering coming from the hallway vent, only now it was clearer than before, almost like it was just on the other side of the wall. She whispered, "Is that someone talking?" I got up and opened the bedroom door all the way. The whispering stopped instantly. We turned on the hallway light. Everything looked the same. I walked over to the vent, knelt down, and put my ear close to it. At first, there was silence. Then, faintly, I heard something. "Can you hear me?" It was so low I couldn't tell if it was real or if my brain was just filling in noise. But I swear, for a split second, it was like someone was whispering directly into the vent from the other side. I pulled back and stared at the duct. I didn't know what to do. We didn't feel comfortable calling the police. What would we say? There's a whispering voice in our Airbnb's heating system? So we waited. We turned all the lights on, made coffee at 3 in the morning, and just stayed up. At one point, I went outside and walked the perimeter of the house with a flashlight. I didn't see anyone. There were no windows open, no footprints in the dirt around the house, nothing. The next day, I messaged the host. I kept it casual. Asked if anyone else lived on the property or if the vent system was shared with another unit. She responded a few hours later, said the house was standalone. No shared ducts, no adjoining structures, just the one building. We stayed one more night because we didn't have another option. That third night, we didn't hear anything, but we also kept a white noise app running and the lights on in the hallway. The next morning, we left early. We didn't mention the whispering in our review. We left it vague, said the house was cozy, but we had to cut our trip short unexpectedly. About 2 weeks later, I was still curious. I looked up the address again out of habit. The listing was gone. I checked a couple times over the next few months. It never came back up. I don't know if someone else heard what we did, or if the host knew something and just decided to stop renting it, but I've never experienced anything like that before. I still think about that whisper sometimes, how it seemed to mimic our words, how it stopped the second we got close, and how, just once, I swear I heard it say my name. Last summer, my younger brother and I booked a weekend Airbnb in a quiet Oregon town. We were road tripping through the Northwest and needed a place to crash for a couple nights. Most hotels were full because of a local music festival, but we managed to find a last-minute listing that looked decent. It was a 2-story townhouse, modern, with hardwood floors, stainless appliances, and 2 bedrooms on the ground floor. The photos were clean and the reviews were solid. No red flags. The host, someone named Trevor, messaged us after booking and thanked us for choosing the property. His only request was that we not go upstairs. The second floor, he said, was off limits due to storage and ongoing renovations. He added that everything we'd need was on the first floor: kitchen, bathroom, living room, bedrooms. So we didn't question it. When we got there, the place was exactly as pictured. Keypad lock on the front door, lights already on inside, and a welcome note on the kitchen counter with the Wi-Fi password and house rules. Nothing seemed out of place, but the moment I saw the staircase to the second floor, something felt off. The stairs were narrow, carpeted, and led to a plain white door at the top. There was a keypad lock on the handle, and I noticed deep scratch marks around the knob. Not fresh, but not old either, like someone had tried to force it open recently. I pointed it out to my brother, but he shrugged it off. Said it was probably a dog or maybe someone lost a key at some point. We dropped our bags and didn't think much of it. That first evening was normal. We grabbed dinner at a local bar, came back around 10, watched some TV, then went to bed in our separate rooms. The townhouse was quiet, almost too quiet. No creaks, no traffic sounds, just stillness. I was drifting off when I heard it. A faint thud, like something heavy being dropped directly above me. Then slow, measured footsteps across the upstairs floor, from one side of the house to the other. Back and forth, deliberate, not pacing, but like someone was dragging their feet. I froze. I lay there, listening. My room was right beneath the staircase. The sounds were faint but unmistakable. Footsteps. I checked the Airbnb listing again just to make sure. No mention of shared space, no upstairs tenant. The host said the top floor was just for storage. So who was walking around up there? The next morning, I asked my brother if he heard anything. He said no, but he also sleeps like a rock. I didn't push it. We went out for most of the day, explored town, checked out a lake nearby, didn't get back until almost 9. I was hoping maybe I'd imagined the sounds. Maybe it was pipes or expansion in the floorboards or something totally normal. That night, it got worse. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a soft clicking noise, like plastic tapping against wood. It was coming from the stairs. I sat up and listened. The clicking stopped. Then I heard the soft creak of the stairs. One step. Pause. Another step. Someone was walking down the staircase. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and opened my door. The stairs were empty. The white door at the top was closed, still locked, still had the keypad. I walked into the kitchen and checked the front door. Locked. No signs of forced entry, no open windows. I thought maybe my brother had gotten up and gone to the kitchen, but his door was shut, and I could hear him snoring faintly inside. That's when I noticed the shoes. At the base of the staircase, just barely touching the floor, was a pair of old black sneakers. They hadn't been there earlier. Worn, dusty soles, like they'd been dragged out of a closet. Both shoes were pointing directly at me. I backed into my room and locked the door. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. In the morning, the shoes were gone. I didn't say anything to my brother. I didn't want to freak him out or ruin the last day of our trip. We spent most of the afternoon hiking, and by the time we got back to the house, it was already getting dark. That evening, I got a message from the host. Hope you guys are enjoying your stay. Just a reminder not to go upstairs. Let me know if you need anything. The timing was weird. We hadn't messaged him. We hadn't even left the house that day. It was like he knew we were back. Like he was watching. That final night, we were both in the living room watching a movie when the thermostat on the wall beeped and reset. The temperature dropped from 72 to 50. I tried adjusting it, but it didn't respond. Then we heard a loud bang upstairs, like something had fallen or been thrown. I looked at my brother. He muted the TV and just stared at the ceiling. More footsteps, fast ones this time. Then the sound of something dragging across the floor. Furniture maybe, followed by 3 distinct knocks. On the upstairs door, we both stood up. I grabbed the biggest kitchen knife I could find. He grabbed a flashlight. We walked to the base of the staircase and stared up. The door at the top was still closed. Then we heard it again. Click, click, click. The keypad on the door was being pressed from the other side. We got out. We packed our bags in 5 minutes, got in the car, and drove to the nearest motel. I messaged the host on the way out, told him we had an emergency and had to leave early. He replied with a thumbs up emoji and said, "Thanks for staying." That was it. A few weeks later, I checked the listing again. It was gone. I tried messaging the host through the app, but the profile had been deactivated. Out of curiosity, I searched the property address. After some digging, I found a forum post from a few years back. Someone mentioned that a man had been living in that house illegally, staying in the attic and upstairs bedroom without the owner's knowledge. Apparently, the previous tenant had moved out after finding food wrappers and old clothes hidden in the walls. No charges were ever filed. No official report was published. But I still think about the keypad beeping, the dragging sounds, and those shoes at the bottom of the stairs. If you enjoyed these chilling tales and want more true horror stories from the shadows, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Hauntica, and tap the bell icon so you never miss what's lurking next. Your support helps keep the darkness alive and the stories coming.